I'm going to talk to you about dealing with slobs. And if you're a person who's either excessively neat, or what I call a neat freak, or other people call a neat freak, or somebody who's just pretty clean, somebody who's really messy is going to drive you nuts. Now, there may be a time in your life, like when your kids are growing up, and they're in high school or college, that they're messier than normal, or maybe the child has been messy his or her entire life, still is as an adult living at home, or maybe it's your spouse, or maybe it's your mother. But there is one of the four personalities that tends to be disorganized and messier, and those are the sanguines. They are not worried about details. They're very relationship oriented, so they're really into people. They're going from one thing to another. They are not necessarily on time and all that, so they tend to be a little more disorganized and messy than other people. There are also anxiety disorders where people have literally to the point of hoarding, which is extreme messiness. They never throw anything out. And that is anxiety based. It's somebody who feels a lot of anxiety about throwing anything away, and they can't. Gets to that point where they can't. There's also people that have ADHD, attention deficit disorder, who are disorganized and messy, and it's very hard for them to keep track of everything. And then there is depression. People who are depressed are exhausted. They have trouble concentrating. Everything takes so much effort that putting anything away is just overwhelming to them. And they are going to end up being messy. They're not going to have the energy to clean their car, not going to have the energy to clean up their room. They are going to just any little tiny thing you ask them is just completely overwhelming. So these are some of the reasons that people are actually prone to messiness. And maybe that helps you to understand the why, that it's not just that the person doesn't care. It's not just that the person is being stubborn and wants to irritate you, but that literally that's how God made this person, or this is, for that person, unfortunately, what that person is struggling with. I know when it comes to depression, there's a verse that I think about, and this could also be about somebody that's lazy, but it says, as a door turns on a hinges, so a sluggard turns on his bed, or the sluggard buries his hand in the dish. I think of a bowl of food, buries his hand in there, and then is too lazy to bring it back to the mouth. So you may feel like, oh my gosh, this person is so lazy, so sloppy, and doesn't care, literally to the point where the person hardly feeds himself. Somebody who's depressed, I had one girl write me and say, please tell people who have family members that are depressed that to help them to understand that it is so much effort to do anything, that any reasonable adjustment or adjustment of an expectation that they can possibly have is super helpful. She suggested that the person who's depressed, that may be struggling with all that lack of energy, that maybe there's paper plates and cups and forks that the person could use, which can just be thrown away instead of washed. Or the expectation that maybe the room only be cleaned up once a week, or maybe you offer to help with some things that are just to where it's overwhelming. So reasonable expectations, very important. So what you can do if you're living with somebody really messy, recognize that the more ingrained the behavior is, the longer it's been going, the harder it will be to get change. It's just not going to happen, most likely. But you can try to get some adjustment of expectation. You don't have to change to tolerate everything, letting that person be as messy as possible. You don't have to change to match that person's level of messiness. You still get to be yourself, but you can negotiate maybe different levels of cleanness for different areas of the house. Like maybe the bedroom can be as messy as that person wants, and that person's bathroom, but not the rest of the house. Maybe shutting those doors and not going in there, not walking by is the way for you to do that. Or once a week, you'll go in or have the housekeeper go in and clean that room versus you going in and cleaning up for that person. Maybe that will make you feel less stressed. Also, you can allow the person to do things the way they like, rather than doing a you're a slob labeling, which doesn't help, or you're lazy, also labeling doesn't help. just recognizing we're different people, we're made differently, we have different struggles. Maybe your struggle is in something else and this person's struggle is in this. Then you have to work on just not presenting this as a you're wrong, I'm right, but as a we're different and we have different values, we have different priorities, we have different strengths. Then also you want to find something to be grateful about. Extreme characteristics in anybody, if somebody's really laid back, there's some good things with that. That means that that person is maybe more fun or less perfectionistic or less picky. Maybe that person lets you have your way more because that person doesn't really care. Maybe that person is your spouse and you get to decorate the house because that person doesn't really get a lot of happiness from what's around them and how perfect the environment there is, so that you get to just go decorate everything you want. So think of the positive that's associated with this if you can find something. If the person refuses to pick things up and the house is just a horrible mess, then you might have to set some boundaries and say, this is more than I can handle. Like we're going to have to, there's going to have to be some middle ground here where there is some way to get the house nicer. Maybe that person doesn't drive your car because that person leaves your car a mess. So driving your car's off bounds. Maybe leaving dishes in a certain room, you'll agree to pick up the dishes if that person refuses to do it, because it's easier for you to have them picked up than it is for you to look at them and be annoyed by it. Those are some of the decisions you have to make. If I look at it, knowing that the person's not going to pick it up, no matter how much you nag or suggest, if the person's not going to, you get to make a decision. Would I rather pick it up than look at it? Your choice, right? You get to choose that always. What are your boundaries? What are you willing to do and not willing to do? And then if it is a deal breaker where it's like over the top, hoarding, the house is a mess, you can't invite people over, there's no backyard to sit down in, whatever that is, then those are where we have the boundaries, where we sit down and we say, this part is unacceptable. I need to do something with this. But before you get to that point, try to look at all the options that you possibly can. So I hope this helped you with dealing with somebody who is a slob. And thank you for watching this video on Change My Relationship. And I hope that you'll watch more. So thank you.